Okay, this is Wednesday Time Machine for Gauntlet Hangouts. World of Dungeons is the game we're playing. The adventure is called Into the Fire, session 1 of 3. So I'm going to do my CATS procedure. CATS stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. The concept of World of Dungeons is it is a very, very rules-light version of Dungeon World. I should say mechanics light. It's actually not like an easier game. It's just different. It is meant to, it's specifically designed to let you play old adventures and modules, but using a more narrative-focused system like Dungeon World or Dungeon World-esque, right? It was actually originally just a joke for the Kickstarter for Dungeon World, but it's turned into this whole thing. I really love it. I don't think you can run modules straight with it, but it's pretty flexible and functional. Wednesday Time Machine, this particular series that I'm doing on Wednesdays now for the foreseeable future is part of like, well, I'll get to that in AIM, but basically we're going to be playing an adventure that came from the very first issue of Dungeon Magazine. Dungeon Magazine was published in the 80s and 90s, and this adventure from Dungeon Magazine #1 is called Into the Fire. It was published in 1986, and I don't think it's that good, actually. I've read through it. It's kind of super traditional and a little boring even, but it is what it is. We're gonna make it not boring, but so getting into the aim, part of what I want to do with this series is part of like what we're here to do is to like play these older adventures, these older games, these older modules. So I'm doing some Rift stuff next month, for example. I think that that's a worthy pursuit to kind of see to try out old things from the hobby, right? But we're also going to like continue. We're going to have this World of Dungeons story going, and we have some returning characters from previous World of Dungeons adventures, and these characters here can continue on in future things that I run as well. As far as like our specific aim for this, we're going to introduce characters. Then we are going to, we might talk about flags for a minute, but we're definitely going to introduce characters. I'm going to give you a quick overview of like what the mission is in this adventure. And then I'm going to have some establishing questions that I will pose to each of you. These establishing questions will help us personalize and jazz up this module a little bit. Those big establishing questions, they can be answered at any point during the first session. To encourage you to answer them in character, like say in a campfire scene or something like that, I will give you 10% of the total amount of XP you need for the next level if you answer the question in character, basically, right? Otherwise, just give me your answer at some point. Let's see what else. So yeah, and then we'll get the adventure started and kind of see where we end. We'll try to get to a good stopping point, and then call it a night. And we should be able to finish up the entire adventure in 3 sessions. I don't anticipate not being able to do that. The tone of the game is going to be. I generally run a fantasy game pretty dark, but I think this one's going to be just like a little bit more on the sort of like high adventure side of things. So dark swinging to high adventure, I think, is kind of the space we're playing in. Let's see what else. Jennifer dropped out, but she knows all this. Subject matter wise, I put real hard lines on certain things, and I don't want to see happen in the game. I really, really do not want to see any kind of like sexual assault. I prefer not to have like on-screen violence to animals or children as well. I will just ask each of you if you have any like things you want to put behind a line, like just types of subject matter you definitely do not want to do. You can tell us that now. I'll give you a couple seconds. Otherwise, we will have the X card tool on the table. As always, you just say X card or throw up an X or type it into the chat, and we will fix whatever just happened and then keep going. So do you guys have any questions about that? As Fraser, I see you've typed a question. Does high adventure equal Lord of the Rings? Yes, that is the answer to that question. Fraser, are you there? You look like you're frozen, maybe. I don't know.
I am here. My camera's just messed up,
Oh,
I
your
guess.
camera's switched. Okay. Yeah, high adventure is Lord of the Rings, so that is a good way of looking at that. Let's see. Any other questions before we get going? No? Okay, cool. All right. Let's talk about characters. Let's introduce characters. Let's start with the returning characters. Jennifer, will you please tell us about Moon Poison Wolf Crystal?
Well, Moon Poisoned Wolf Crystal is a dumpster gnome from Belet Osk. She is a part of a revolutionary cell of gnomes and elves and humans, all pretty crazy in the mad city of Belet Osk, trying to overthrow the Hex King. She plays a hurdy-gurdy. She wields a hammer and a sickle, and like so, if this was like a live action movie, she'd be a Jim Henson Muppet sort of creation. Like she'd be like a Muppet, pretty much. And so she's got like yellow skin and this like sort of half crazy purple mohawk. I mean, you can see the illustration that I made, and like a leather jacket, and she's got crazy pointy shoes. Most recently, she left Belet Osk after accidentally allowing the Hex King to extend his reign to Vornheim, and so she is on a quest to try and get some answers and some allies in the fight against the Hex King because she has inadvertently helped him grow stronger.
Right.
And yeah, she has magical summoning power, and she's she's 3 feet tall, and she's pretty fucking crazy.
I love it. Oh, and you have a couple spirits too, don't you? What are your spirits?
My spirits are there is Animelius, who is a worm spirit of decay and chaos. And the other is, I think,
Yoshi Kono.
Yosi Okono, who is kind of the patron spirit of the dumpster gnomes, and it is the spirit of revolution, change, renewal. And it's essentially if Yoko Ono played Gareth in Labyrinth. Sort of that's the kind of vibe I'm going with for that, or some like amalgamation of both of them. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. And your flags, please.
My flags are I think there's treat me poorly due to my heritage, behavior, or appearance. And then the other one is go with me in a crazy scheme when we're in a pinch. So.
Awesome. I love it. And for the new characters, if you don't have flags yet, that's fine. I've got a document with some ideas that you guys can take a look at if you want. I'll share that with you when we're done here. Awesome. I don't have any questions. Anybody else have any questions about Moon Poison? Just at the really like basic outset questions before we get going. Awesome. In that case, Fraser, please tell us about Jurek, or Urek, I suppose.
So I always just say Jurek anyway. It's probably wrong, but yeah. Jurek is a tribesman from, we've established as sort of like a nomadic cold weather tribe who, for some reason or another, always gets pulled away from the tribe. He seems to be like a sort of spiritual pathfinder hunter type of person who goes and for one reason or another needs to destroy these threats posed to the tribe now or later that he's convinced will come. He's a kind of more of a barbarian than a fighter. This is how I usually picture him. He's pretty decked out, and in this one I'm actually going to play him as like old man Jurek. He's been through some stuff, and the last time we saw him, he was kind of like waiting for the shoe to drop for the Hex King, because we hadn't completely. The Lich still had 2 swans that they were living in, so it was sort of like a nebulous ending. So I think he's sort of grown old, but has his fighter instincts and is still sort of expecting trouble.
Yeah, to the extent that the Hex King is still a problem, I think what we're going to say is going on is basically you unseated the Hex King from Belet Osk. You freed Belet Osk of his influence, but the Hex King moved on to better pastures, in part thanks to all of your help. He is now in the great city of Vornheim, surreptitiously causing trouble. Right. So that's great. What are your flags, please?
I've got show me that the world still needs me, and get into a dangerous situation that I can protect you from. And he is level 5 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's level 5. It looks like you have enough, possibly enough XP for level 6 too. We'll check the booklet before we get going, but I think that's right. Let's see here. For level 6, you need
15,000, so a little ways away.
All right. Yeah, okay, so you just need to change your goal then on your sheet there. Awesome. So let's talk about new characters then, unless anybody has more questions about Uruk. Right. Brand new characters. Let's start with Zalzane. Matthew, please tell us about Zalzane.
Sure.
Or Zalzane, however it's pronounced.
I kind of like that, but I think we're going to stick with Zalzane.
Stick with Zalzane.
So Zalzane is an elf from Belet Osk, who once was a sort of ritualistic healer type, but slowly, as they learned more about and grew deeper into the study of spirits and curses, sort of descended into madness because they were surrounded by all this insanity kind of all the time, and it really got to him. And he ended up kind of going off the deep end a little bit and kind of transitioned from ritualistic healer to kind of spirit doctor, almost witch doctor kind of vibe a little bit. And so he is... I've kind of got him as a bit of a hybrid class type thing. He once was a healer, so he still knows how to stitch people up. He has summon, so he has 2 spirits that he has learned to commune with. He communes with them usually through his dreams, and while he does so, he's sort of an artist musician type as well. So while he does so, he goes into these kind of fever visions almost, and he does these works of art on leather hides, and then he uses those leather hides to make drums with, and he uses the drums to perform some of his rituals now. So that's cool. Kind of his thing. And I think he could be involved in Moon Poison's backstory a little bit in that way, because I know she has like a bit of a weird dumpster punk artist scene going on, and I think he might have been caught up in that too. But basically, the 2 spirits are Pustule, of flesh and bone. Yeah, that's what I was going for. Who's basically like a bag of flesh and bones. Pretty much what the name really conjures the image of what I'm going for. And then Orshana of affliction and dreams, which kind of represents the curses and the sort of nightmare stuff that he is kind of getting into.
Awesome. I love it. Let me see if I have any other questions. We can talk about flags. I put a document in the folder that I sent you guys. It says copy of flags. You don't have to use one of those flags, but those are some great ideas for flags.
Yeah, I've got a few open actually that I've been kind of poring over, and I just they'll probably come out as
just let us know at some
comes
point.
out. But yeah, I think one of them will be about kind of making a big deal out of my weird like processes, like how I do my healing and all my weird rituals and stuff like that, like almost showing a little bit of disgust or what is this dude all about kind of thing.
I like it.
But yeah, I'll update it.
Cool. Any other questions about Zalzane before we move on?
And Fraser, one thing about Jurek, I know there was something about how he's I guess we could talk about this once we start talking about more character details and stuff. But I heard that he might have a spirit problem or a curse of some kind, and I think if we talk connections or whatever, but I think Zalzane might be interested in that and might be like pestering you and trying to, you know, investigate that.
Yeah, so I think we're going with like basically the Hex King is tormenting you, right, Jurek?
Yeah, I think yeah, because we took out those swans and that was a big deal. It's basically like Voldemort's like, I'm gonna fuck you up one day, right? So
yeah, the Hex King was like this lich in Belet Osk who used to rule Belet Osk, and he had these 7 swans, which were his phylactery, or Horcrux for you youngins. That's what the 7 swans were. So, in my day, we called them phylacteries. All right, awesome. Let's go to, in that case, let's go to the last character, Artis, or Artis. I always like to do alternate pronunciations. Kyle, tell us about your character.
Yeah, so what I was imagining for Artis, that he, you know, grew up in the woods and is very, very comfortable in like the hunter-trapper kind of lifestyle. And that is like he was living with, or something happened, so he's now kind of homeless and a little bit, so kind of wandering, you know, finding work as a guide or something, trying to find you know, a reason, a thing to go on for. He's a marksman, and that's pretty much what I got fleshed out for him to start with.
That's good enough.
From there.
Let's talk about, well, so take a look at the flags document when you get a chance, and
yeah, I just got
that. And pick some flags out or write some flags. That's pretty good though. I like a sort of like sketchy character in the beginning because we get to see them kind of come alive in the game. We learn more about them as we go. Cool. I don't think I have any other questions about any of the characters at this point. Let me tell you a little bit about the actual Into the Fire sort of like setup, what's going on, okay? So 15 years ago, Prince Lomarin went missing. He was a prince of this land that you're going to find all of yourselves in. He was kidnapped by a very famous pirate named Jalusa the Merciless. And I'll type some of these notes in for you in a second. But basically, Prince Lomarin was traveling across the sea to go to university or something like that. And Jalusa the Merciless intercepted his ship, kidnapped him. And at a certain point, Jalusa was treating with Prince Lomarin's father, King Lomar, to collect a ransom. And so Jalusa's ship was on its way back to the kingdom to collect a ransom from King Lomar, and the ship completely disappeared. No sign of it. There was never any other sign of Jalusa or Prince Lomarin or the ship or its crew or anything ever again. It just disappeared in the night. And so that was 15 years ago, right? And I think basically people just forgot about it, right? Like people moved on and that was the end of it. Except recently, a group of King Lomar's knights were patrolling a mountain range near the western border of his lands. These knights went missing, but one of them turned up, his body covered in terrible burns, and he was clutching a silver necklace that belonged to Prince Lomarin. The knight died at this fort that he managed to like drag himself to called Fort Silan. He died almost immediately, muttering the words, the fire, right? You might imagine sort of Marlon Brando in the jungle, right? The fire. And then his skin all burned and terrible, and he dies. But he's got this silver necklace, which is clearly Prince Lomarin's. It's marked with his seal and everything. And this is totally strange because like Prince Lomarin went missing in the sea, right? Like, and now here's in the mountains, this necklace. So King Lomar suddenly like, oh shit, my son might be, there's evidence of my son, right? He has sent out word that basically anyone who can bring him evidence of what happened to his knights that went missing and or evidence of what happened to his son will be paid a very handsome reward in coin. And ostensibly, that might be what you're all going to do, right? That's notionally, okay, sure, we're going to go check this out. We're here. But this is actually not super close to Belet Osk, which is where 3 of you are most recently from. Jurek, you might be from this area, so maybe that's why you're here. But for Zalzane and Moon Poison, this is nowhere near Belet Osk or Vornheim. So you guys have actually traveled a fair amount of way to do this somewhat basic pedestrian recon investigation type thing. There are reasons. Questions I'm going to pose to you, these will hang over, these will probably hang over the entire series, the answers to these questions. So I'm going to give you some time to think about them. But I would like an answer by the end of this session. But the questions I'm going to pose are, Jerk. As established, King Lomar is offering coin in exchange for this information about the knights and a princely sum for those who bring him physical evidence of what happened to his son, Lomarin. But you don't care about the coin. You intend to extract a different price from King Lomar. I want to know what that is. So think about it. Zalzane. You believe a terrible and ancient spirit resides within that western mountain range. I want to know what rumors you've heard about this spirit and why do you wish to commune with it? For artists, you have a close personal connection to one of the missing knights. Tell me about him or her. What was the nature of this relationship? It should be something that motivates you to want to be on this mission, right? And Moon Poison. You have a suspicion that the ship of Jalusa the Merciless might also be found somewhere in these mountains, given the strange circumstances. Why is it so important that you find this ship? You have a 2-part question. Why is it so important you find this ship? And second part of the question, why do you also fear that the ship will be the death of you? So think about those things. Let's have just like a little quick opening encounter and then we'll take a break, okay? Let's just kind of get some dice on the table, see these characters in action, see what they can do. I'm gonna give you guys a roll for your party window.
We should roll hit points too then, hey?
Yeah, go ahead and re-roll your hit points. Roll hit points if you... brand new characters, just whatever. If you've already rolled some, you can just keep whatever you rolled. But basically, you start with a number of hit dice equal to 1 plus your constitution. And actually, let me look at the rules. I might be getting that wrong.
And you keep the highest of, or you keep one, you keep as many equal to your level, I think.
Right, yeah. So you get to roll 2, but you get to keep just 1, right?
Yep. 4 HP, no armor. Let's do this.
Do it.
I'll roll in the party room.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Oh, where can you put the link?
Oh,
in?
yeah, sorry. We're going to be in Kindly Amazed Arachnid.
That's a good one.
A good one. Here's the chat.
I've heard good things about this room. Okay. So I roll 5d6.
So, Jason, real quick, what do I hope to find in the ship, and why will it be the death of me?
Yeah, well, it's slightly different. Why do you want to find the ship, right? Of Jalusa the Merciless, and why do you fear it will be the death of you?
Okay.
Either the ship or whatever you find, right?
Right. And this happened, what, 15 years ago, you said?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's the last time the ship was seen, was 15 years ago. So.
Groovy.
Awesome. Okay, so Jurek, you got some stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of ones on that roll.
Yeah. But it was still better than most people.
Put your level and hit die there, Zalzane. Cool. Artist did pretty good considering his level. Awesome. Okay. So from the capital city where King Lomar has sent out this word, right? There is a military road that connects up with Fort Silan. You all coming from wherever you muster at, and then whatever direction you're coming from, you're going to end up on that military road because it's the easiest way to get to Fort Silan. And Fort Silan is where the knight with all the bad burns managed to drag himself to, all right, before he died. So that's like the first point of the investigation. Like anybody who's going to be investigating this, that's where they're going to go to find out what they can find out about these missing knights and or Prince Lomarin, right? And then you all have your own little reasons for going, which we'll talk about. But this road, military road means it is more frequently traveled than, like, say, a path cut through the wilderness, right? Mostly an uneventful journey. It's going to be fairly safe. Doesn't mean that there are soldiers crossing back and forth constantly, but I think it's probably like paved in certain places, and it probably has lots of like little stopover villages and hamlets, right? So it's frequented enough to where it's mostly safe, even at night. And so you're on the road at night. I have a power as the GM of World of Dungeons called the Die of Fate. It's my favorite feature of the game, and stolen from Burning Wheel, incidentally, but not used the same way. It's just called that. The Die of Fate, basically every time you have an encounter, every time you encounter a person, every time you enter a new room, any kind of like new change in circumstances, I roll the Die of Fate to determine basically like what kind of foot you're getting off on, right? So is it going to be an easier encounter? Is it going to be a tougher encounter, right? If I get on the higher end of the scale, 4, 5, 6, you're looking pretty good. Lower end of the scale, 1 and 2 especially, it's going to be pretty tough. I'll always roll that publicly so you guys kind of know what's about to happen, out of character at least. And so that's a thing I'm going to do at a certain point. One other little thing I want to mention. It's true you only have 6 hit points and 4 hit points and other measly amounts of hit points. But going down to 0 doesn't mean you're dead. So long as after the fight is over, one of you is still standing, everybody else gets to roll a d6. And so long as you don't roll a 1 on that d6 roll, you come back. Now, depending on what you roll, you might come back with grievous injuries and other bad things. But basically, as long as you don't hit a 1 on your sort of like Black Gate, last breath roll, your character won't die. So that's that. And that's a hack. That's something I've added on. But right now I'm going to roll a d6 to see what our little encounter is going to be like here. A 2, not great. I think you have stopped for the night. I think you probably like met in a small village. Maybe, I'm assuming Zalzane and Moon Poison came together. And maybe Artis, you being a ranger, maybe you know the land well. And so maybe that's why you got involved. And Jurek, you have a connection to Moon Poison. So there's reasons why you might have all gotten together. We're going to keep that a little fuzzy for now, unless you guys want to talk about it. But basically, you've been on the road for a few days on this military road going to Fort Silan, and you decide to make camp for a bit. I want to know from each of you, one of your fellow traveling companions over the last few days, you have discovered has a habit that's really goddamn annoying, and you want to punch them for it. I want you to pick one of your traveling companions and tell me what that weird little habit or thing that they do is that drives you crazy. But one of your companions also does something that you find oddly endearing or even attractive. I want to know what that is too. Think about it for a minute. I'll give you a minute. I'm going to go refresh my drink. I'll be right back.
I'm going to quickly go to the washroom too then.
Sounds good. if you guys need any help thinking of annoying things that my character does, he probably does a lot of them. So, and if you guys want to talk any more, detail about what your person is sort of about, like what their personality shines through at camp, that might give us some clues. Because I'm happy to make stuff up for you guys, but if you want to have any, input in that.
All right. Fraser, are you there? Or Fraser, are you there?
He went to use the washroom.
Oh, okay. I'm coming with that. I see Fraser has a message that says, "Holy fuck, that's scary as fuck." What's he referring to?
Her being a Muppet.
Oh. Awesome. Jennifer, I assume you're there. Okay, yeah.
What? Were you talking about me?
Yeah, Muppets are scary.
Yeah, we are.
Hey Fraser, what are snake stuffs for reading snake scrolls? Is that something you use?
Yeah, it's like,
I'm just curious.
It's like a special thing that you get in Bellet Osk that you use to read snake scrolls on scales. You have to have one in order to make sense of it.
It's a Vornheim thing, actually, but it's like it looks like a little almost like a D12, but like with more sides, and it's got holes all over it, and you run the snake through it, and as the snake passes underneath the holes, you can read those scales. And so all snakes have secret knowledge and information on their scales.
True that.
As long as you can read it.
And I can. I think Zelzane does something that is kind of annoying, but more like scary. When you're sleeping, you go into your like fever dream thing, and your breathing slows so much that I can't tell if you're like alive. So I have to go over and like put my ear close to your nose to make sure you're not like dead.
And then a lot of the time I just bolt upright, my eyes open wide, and then I immediately like go over to one of my hides and start sketching out whatever I was dreaming about, and like basically come back to life, and like I all of a sudden have this like rush of inspiration, basically.
And then artists, whichever one. I think the endearing thing is that you maybe sleep always so that your head is pointing like north or east, like to the rising sun or something like that, right? Something rangery. I think that would be neat.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, Salsane, what do you got?
Jennifer, do you want to tell me about the swan skull? Is that a trophy that you earned after killing one?
It's because I killed all of my black swans because I wanted the Hex King to die, and I didn't realize that they weren't actually as important. I didn't realize they weren't as important as I didn't realize they were as unimportant as they turned out to be. I thought they were more important than they were, and but I still have it as a connection and a reminder of my failure.
Okay.
And so sometimes I probably like argue with it.
Yeah, and I that's perfect. That's literally what I was thinking of. I was thinking that like sometimes you'd sit there with the skull and like play with it, and like I would find that super endearing because I'm big into bones and weird stuff like that, and I probably treat like skeletons and stuff like I give them personalities too. So maybe you sit there and you chat with your swan friend.
Oh, I argue with it. I yell at it. I'm so angry at it.
I think I still like that too, just because it's you got fire in you.
Don't look at me.
And then,
what's the annoying thing that one of your companions does?
Yeah.
It could be that like you always start to get that story from me about how I'm cursed, but then I clam up or something.
I was thinking that too, or even like a lot of your are you secretive about the scrolls that you have as well?
Yeah, there's far too much power, and if you've watched any of the other things, Jurek's statement about wizards is fuck wizards. So
Perfect. And yeah, I think it definitely bothers me that you won't let me I want to get into your dreams, right? And if I can get in there, if I can get into your head, I could figure out this curse and I could probably excise him from your mind, but you won't let me interpret your dreams, and I'm not down with that.
Awesome. Artist, what do you think? Annoying, something endearing?
Yeah, I think Jurek, I can imagine him eating like really loudly.
Okay.
That would probably
right.
really get under my skin.
I'm a savage. I'm a goddamn savage.
And Moonbeam's got a, that's the right name?
Moon poison.
Moon poison. Fishing pole. So I probably really appreciate like the practicality in that.
Oh yes, because it's incredibly practical. Not the way I use it.
So you do not fish, in fact.
For birds.
Nice. Good. Awesome. Thank you. Moon poison. What you're thinking when your companions here?
I think I find it endearing that Zalzane and I will occasionally have strange, feverish duets with our musical instruments, with his drum and my hurdy-gurdy, and I find that incredibly fun and a good use of our time. I find it annoying that every time I go into the trees to fish for birds, artists will try and take me to the river to try and fish for fish, and I hate fish. Fish are the worst, and so it frightens me whenever he takes me to the river and like asks me to tries to show me how to use my fishing pole, and I'm like, I know how to use it.
And I think the best time in these lands for fishing for birds is at night. And in fact, you were doing a little bit of like night bird fishing while you were supposed to be on watch, Moon Poisoned Wolf Crystal.
Of course.
The rest of your companions having a sleep just off the side of the road, maybe about 30 or 40 paces away from the road, maybe a little bit more than that. A low ember dying fire, right? Fur blankets, it's not quite freezing yet, but it's getting a little cold. And you're in a tree. You were having no luck fishing for birds. And then you fell asleep. And you woke up being dragged out of the tree. It's a little dark. You can't quite make out what has you, but whatever it is, it's big. It must stand taller than a man because it was able to like reach up into this tree pretty easily and snatch you out. And the rest of your companions are still asleep. What do you do, Moon Poison?
Hi. What's your name?
Yeah, no, he's like violently dragging you out. It's some sort of bear. It's some sort of large animal-like creature. You just hear it snarling, like snarling and growling, but behind you. It's like grabbed you by, let's say, the collar of your shirt or whatever, right? It's pulled you out, and it's just like dragging you along the ground. Like imagine a bear looking in a tree for honey, but instead it found you.
Yeah. Okay. So it's dragging me along. I still have my fishing pole.
You do? Yeah.
Do I have any of my weapons. I suppose I can have.
Yeah, you can have whatever you think you might have took with you in the tree.
Okay.
It's fine.
So I think are my friends in sight?
They are. Yeah, you can still see the camp. They're all just asleep.
Okay. I'm gonna try to go fishing for Jurek.
Okay, nice. Give me do something risky. The stakes here are the immediate short-term stakes are that you just like don't grab Jurek, and in fact you might even lose your fishing pole. But give me a dexterity roll.
Okay.
It'd be kind of funny if you failed and you got a bird, though.
Right. Well, I did get an 8.
Okay, awesome. You I think you're gonna sling the fishing rod with a little hook, and it's gonna like hook Jurek, and Jurek, you like snap awake because you have a hook inside of you, and you look over to the left, and you just see Moon Poison like,
And I'm waving.
yeah, waving, maybe yelling. I assume you're yelling as well, but you just see this massive, like hulking bear-like creature dragging her off into the darkness, away from the perimeter of your campfire light. What do you do? And also, Moon Poison. In the doing, you actually dropped your fishing pole. So.
Oh no. Okay, well, I think, yeah, like I rip this thing out of me, and, and I roll up and I say Ranger to arms, and then I immediately go for my great axe and I just whip it right at the creature's head.
Nice.
I like how you just said Ranger and not
Ranger to arms.
Right. Yeah. No, I noticed that. That was beautiful.
Give me a dexterity roll. I do think there's a danger of you possibly hitting Moon Poison by accident.
Okay, let's see. Dexterity +2. Let's do it. Orange dice. 3, 6, 8.
8.
8, yep.
Awesome.
And I have athletics, so I'm pretty agile.
I'll give you a choice. You can either you can injure the creature, but it'll still have its jaws on Moon Poison, or you can just get Moon Poison free. Your choice.
Yeah.
I'll get Moon Poison free.
What? Come on.
Give me the fiction. What does it look like?
I think the funny thing would be, even like we see Jurek for the first time in this movie or whatever, where he's got that slash across his eye, and we don't know how he got it from the last time, but he's aiming, and I think in his eye it's clearly like he's going for the headshot or whatever, but he can't aim quite properly because of that one eye, so instead it goes and hits like the creature's arm or whatever, and it embeds itself there, and Moon Poison is free, and he sort of like howls in anger that he missed.
Nice. Artis, you snap awake. You're used to like snapping awake quickly from camp, right? That's your ranger. That's your deal. You snap awake and you see a creature that you recognize. It's an owlbear. I've dropped an image on the little image board there. If you guys want to check that out, I assume you would know owlbear as being a ranger of these lands, Artis. Yeah. It looks like a big bear, but partially covered in feathers with an owl head, and the beak of the owl head for some reason also have teeth. So who knows? But you see this thing, like the arrow hits, and it lets go of Moon Poison. It kind of lets out a loud or whatever, right? But like kind of noise, and it's Moon Poison is like maybe scrambling away, trying to get free. And but what do you do?
Yeah, first instinct is to hollow out my arrow.
Yeah,
and I'm definitely gonna try to hit something vital. Face, neck, something like that.
Give me a dexterity roll.
Yeah, I think I know how to use this thing, right?
Yeah, you're just going to type in 2 and then on the little D6 part, and then just hit submit.
Yeah. That work? 2. I could also just use physical dice.
You can use physical dice too. Yeah.
Well, it looks like they rolled, right? Oh no.
I'm seeing like 5 dice.
Here, we can clear them all.
Yeah. The last two that the last two that you just rolled, I thought was a 5 and a 6. There you go.
There we go.
Looking good.
So that's a 9.
Nice. I'm going to let's see. I think you're not going to hit anything vital. I think if you'd hit a 10, or maybe if you'd hit even a 12, I would like let you hit something like really vital so that the thing would run away. I do think though that you're going to get a good shot. I think in doing so though, and to get your shot, I think you have to kind of like, I think you have to basically like draw the thing's attention away from moon poison a little bit. And then, so you're putting yourself in danger somewhat, but you will get your shot off. Go ahead and roll the damage on your bow, and you can kind of give me a little bit of fiction there too if you want.
So that's 4, 5, 6 damage.
Nice.
Yeah, so I kind of run out into the open and I, take my shot and probably hit it somewhere in the chest, but like clearly separate myself from like the camp and group and like.
Yeah, and I think it's actually like I think like it actually is like it kind of cuts to like barrel toward you now, right? It knows enough. It's smart enough to know that it needs to close the gap with you, right? If you're shooting arrows, so it's going to do its best to close the gap. Zane, you may be just sort of waking up gradually to this. You hear the commotion. You see Jurek. You see things. You see chaos. You hear screaming and yelling. What do you do?
So first, I think I wake up and I kind of start getting to my feet slowly, and I say, "Always last to be roused. Zal Zane, never useful in a fight. I'll show them." And I just kind of grumble and shake my head and like grab my stuff and run out of the tent. And I think I see. So what's the immediate action? The owlbear is charging down.
Yeah, I think you probably see like you probably saw Artis get his arrow off, and the thing like hits him, but he kind of like shakes it off a little bit and just is barreling like really quickly. The thing can like lope forward really fast toward Artis.
Yeah. I say, I think I call out to him. I say, "Close, but you need an anatomy lesson, boy." And then I take one of my, so I have these like bones that are on one end are whittled to sharp spikes, but on the other end still have the knobby ends. And those are like my drumsticks, but they're also double as like throwing darts basically. So I take one and I like twirl it around a little bit, and then I get it up in my hand and I kind of just try and throw it and aim for its neck or its eye, or again, something vital that I would know, cause I'm a healer or whatever.
This thing has an apparent obvious physiology, so yeah, it's no big deal. Go ahead and roll plus dexterity.
Cool. So I've got a 3 in dexterity, so let's see how this goes.
Yeah. Get a 12 plus.
Oh,
bonus. Nice. I'll give you you get a bonus on 12 plus, like a sweet extra cool thing. I will let you do the vital hit. Describe killing it.
Okay, cool. Then I think it's not just one bone dart. I think it's a few, and I'm kind of like, I do keep almost like a quiver of these drumsticks in my bag, and I think I take a few of them out, and they just kind of sink like lightning quickly into like one like right through the eye, and it like immediately tosses its head back and exposes its neck, and then the other two just sink like doom doom right into like where its throat would be, and it like lets out a roar, and then all of a sudden the sound just stops, and then it like can't breathe or whatever, and I've just kind of disabled it with these very precise strikes.
Artis, how does it make you feel that he not only insulted your marksmanship, but also took down the owlbear so quickly, whereas you could not?
I think, yeah, there's a little bit of hurts going on there. But mostly I'm probably relieved that like
that the owlbear is not like barreling down on you. Yeah,
you got to be realistic. Right?
That's totally fair. Totally fair. We're going to take a break. We're going to take 5 minutes. But before we go, I have some smaller scale establishing questions for you related to Fort Silan. More things to think about. Zalzane, since you killed the creature, I'll give you the honor of the first question here.
Oh boy.
Honor that it is. What rumor have you heard about the burial crypts beneath Fort Silan? Think about that. And I want that question when we get back. Moon poison. No, we'll get to you in a minute, moon poison. Let's go to Jurek. Jurek, who do you know who lives or works at Fort Silan? Artists, I have the same question for you. Who do you know who lives or works at Fort Silan? And moon poison. There is a strange race of deep gnomes who live somewhere in this region, pretty close to Fort Silan. Probably like the little mountain pass that's right just near Fort Silan. I don't think you hate many things. The Hex King, I guess, is one. I don't think you hate many things, but why do you hate these gnomes? These like strange, deep gnomes. I would like all these answers when we get back. So let's take 5 minutes and we'll talk about them.
Cool.
Fraser, I'm like, I've heard of owlbears.
Yeah, well, usually I've never heard of the monster, right? So I get excited. Like, remember you were like, "There's a lich here," and I'm like, "Ooh, what's a lich?"
Have you watched the Bone Chronicle King's Meal yet?
No.
That was my We Hunt the Keepers for GauntletCon.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's got some cool characters, but apart from that, it's like really, really D&D. Like it's like every like D&D thing like happens in that adventure. Like I was really I was really leaning into like D&D-ness on that one. So it's a good one though. It's a good one.
It's in my excited to watch category. Right now has way too many things in it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be kind of going through GauntletCon stuff for a while.
A long time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we're waiting on Matthews. We'll give him a minute.
Yeah. I watched the Monster Hearts that Ollie ran. It was pretty good.
Was it really good?
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Ollie can run that monster.
Good. Yeah, I've got 2 games of Monster Hearts coming up soon.
Yep. And I'm in both.
Yeah. I know you're the mainline one. Yeah, that's right. You're at 83 too.
Yep.
You're having Monster Hearts set in 1983.
Mercy Falls 83. Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was very intrigued.
I think it'll be fun. It's just a little 3-shot, but if it goes well though, we'll keep it going like we have the other Mercy Falls keeps going. So.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. While we're waiting on Matthew, Kyle, how did you find the Gauntlet? How'd you find this?
It was actually through Discern Realities was where it started.
Cool. Awesome.
And then yeah.
Cool.
Following it, and this was the first game that I actually got the time to work out for. So
nice. Cool. Awesome. Discern Realities is really fun. We haven't put out a new episode in 100 years, it feels like, but it's enjoyable.
I was listening from the start and going through them, so
cool.
That's awesome. quite a lot to listen to.
Awesome. Looks like we're all back. So I'm gonna give you guys a chance to like cope with the owlbear and like just maybe I will tell you that like as the ranger artist, it does have tracks. Like you could, if you wanted to like follow back wherever this thing came from. If any of you think that its body parts might be of some use or value, you can do whatever you wish with it. We'll get to that in a moment. I want to do a quick check-in though on just to do a quick character check-in. I like to check in on characters just a little bit after the first break. So I want to talk about like your skills. You each have like a set number of skills, different things. For example, Zhao Zane, you have heal and decipher. What the skills mean is basically mechanically what they mean is anytime you do something that could be arguably considered part of one of those skills and you have to roll dice to do it, you can't get a miss result. You can only get a hard 7 to 9. Okay. So that's just a thing to know about how skills work. That's a refresher for everyone because it's a little different than what exists in Dungeon World. And I also wanted to take a look at special abilities. Zalzane, we know what summon does. What does vision do?
So for Zalzane, vision is when he has sort of those fever dream communions with the spirits. I'm kind of reflavoring the cleric ability, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so instead of holy water, it's kind of like a dream essence that he kind of imbibes, and it puts them into this trance-like state where he can kind of reach out and talk to the spirits. It's almost as if he's dreaming, and then while he has these dreams, he almost like Jason, I know you've seen this. No spoilers, but like Will's drawings in Stranger Things.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's almost like he goes into this. He just starts sketching madly or painting madly onto his leather hides that he carries with him, and then he wakes up and kind of interprets that. So that's how he kind of gets these messages from the spirits.
That's awesome. Moon poison. You have slay. You have cure, which is magical healing. You have musical summoning. I think we've kind of know what that all looks like. Jurek, you have hardy, which gives you more hit points. You also have slay and skirmish. What does skirmish do?
Skirmish is my armor counts as 1 rank lighter, and I do +1 damage as well. So everything is +3 unless it's a range, then it's just +1. So I have that in my weapons there. I have the brackets.
Cool, awesome. That sounds great. And artists, you have scout and volley. What do those do? You are muted, artist.
You're muted. Still muted.
Okay, so scout is when I scout ahead, I always spot the target first.
Okay, great.
And then volley gives me +2 to ranged attacks.
Cool. So, I guess just swinging back to this owlbear situation. You're there. It's dead. It is nighttime. It clearly came from somewhere. A cursory examination of this owlbear will tell you that it looks a little hungry, and its actions also kind of inform that too. Like it's really unusual that it like came so close to your camp and attacked you, right? It wouldn't have done that unless it was like kind of desperate. But anyway, before we wrap this scene and continue on to Fort Silan, do you guys want to do anything? Like anything you want to do? Right at the outset?
I don't think it needs to be a big thing, but I think Jurek would make sure that every part of the body would go to some use. Like we'd eat it or whatever, like prepare it in such a way that the other animals around would eat it and stuff like that.
I'd like to take some of the bones to whittle for like, bone darts, like the bigger like femurs and everything. So I got these big honking mallets that I can use for my drums kind of.
I'm into that. Yeah. You guys can take the time to do that if you want to note that on your gear.
Can I take the skull as like a helmet?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Zalzane is so into that. He's so on board.
I don't have to.
Go for it. I think that's great.
All right, I have
noted on your gear.
Yeah, owlbear skull helmet.
I think artists would like kind of look out for tracks and kind of see where it came from, and not stray too far, but like get a.
Do you want to just take a minute to scout ahead while they're field stripping the animal to see what you can find?
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll get to that in a moment. Just give me 1 second.
So I actually have a quick question, Jason. I have this golden scarab.
I remember it.
And I'm just curious, because it's like a living sort of golden scarab, right? Is that from Volo the Oil Slickened?
It was from Volo the Oil Slickened, and I thought you were supposed to give it to Vigreet. Did you not do that?
Yeah, I was supposed to, but we didn't.
Okay. Well, you have it. I mean, I think it's probably like in a jar, right? I mean.
Yeah, I don't like. Is it like? I kind of want to like, sort of, I don't know, read magic or see like.
What you can learn about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Give me an intelligence roll, and I'll let you ask some questions about it.
All right, that's a 9.
I'll let you ask any one question you want.
So yeah, I've been traveling a while with this thing and kind of observing it here and there, and in its jar. I'm just curious, like, does it seem to have any other function other than being a like a mechanical living scarab, golden scarab?
Yeah. I mean, it's just strictly organic. It's just golden color.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does it have any magical properties, I guess?
Yeah, it
That I
does.
can tell?
It actually can function if you learn how to contact it, and you learn how to sort of like basically just you learn how to contact it and kind of spend some time figuring it out. The golden scarab actually does have a sort of spirit consciousness, which can be used for spellcasting purposes, for summoning purposes. So
Cool.
it'll take some time, but yeah.
Okay, sweet.
Cool. So artists, because you have your scout move, you spot trouble before it spots you. I'll just tell you what you spot. I think you track back maybe like, I think, let's say you follow its tracks about maybe about a quarter of a mile, okay, into the wilderness. And you see two things. Three things, let's say. Actually, I'm gonna roll a d6 too. Let's roll a d6 real quick, just to see what this looks like precisely. My die of fate is a 1, so you see a nest with two. You can't tell what color they are because you're just kind of operating off moonlight. But you see a nest nestled in a copse of trees, pulled together with branches and other bits of detritus and rocks and things. And there are two eggs, two large eggs, almost certainly eggs of this owlbear. You see next to the nest an adolescent owlbear asleep. And then you see, staring at you across the way, is this owlbear's companion, awake, probably about 20 paces away, like a low growl, staring at you, making very strong eye contact. What do you do? Owlbear eggs intact are exceptionally valuable.
Gotcha. How far away from the others have I strayed?
About a quarter of a mile.
Okay.
So no, there's no like hollering back at them or anything.
Right. Well, stealth is a skill I've got, so I'm gonna try to hide from an owlbear.
Sure. Are you going to try to hide to get away, or just hide until it loses interest, and then you can do something else? Or are you just going to try to sneak away?
I'm gonna try to hide so that it's not staring at me, first of all, and then kind of see
what happens from there.
If they're all, hanging around there, or
yeah, that sounds good. Give me a dexterity roll. You can't fail at this, but you can get a hard 7 or hard mid result.
So that would have been a fail, I think. I think that was my 1 and 3.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be a 7. Hard 7. You do hide. And in fact, describe that for me. Describe how you like kind of take cover without the owlbear like not following up. Like maybe it thought it saw something and then you kind of snuck into the shadows or whatever. But what does it look like?
Right. So maybe I like ducked into the bushes really quick and like tossed a stick or a stone or something in the other direction to kind of send him off my trail.
Awesome. And you crouch into place for a minute, keeping an eye on things. The owlbear, this adult owlbear, the adolescent one is still there sleeping. The adult one kind of like snuffles around the ground a little bit. You can tell it's clearly like wondering where its mate went, right? And at a certain point, it just takes off in the direction that the other one came, which means it's going right back to camp. It probably at some point it'll probably pick up the smell of its dead mate, right? And so it's going off to camp, and you're there still hiding. What do you do?
I'm gonna trail it. I'm gonna follow back towards the party and not engage it till everyone's nearby.
Are you going to basically try to get around it to warn them first? Is that the idea?
Would I be able to outpace?
Yeah, I think you could. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think if you give me an appropriate role, just describe how you might do it, how you might like get ahead of the owlbear without being noticed.
Sure. Yeah. And I get there and warn them. So I'll maybe like, I had taken a swervy route to get to him, so I cut a couple corners and
jump across a ravine or something. Yeah. Okay. I love it. Just give me a dexterity to move quickly. Get there.
So that's a 7.
Awesome. You're gonna get there. You can warn the group about the other owlbear coming. Group, you'll have a choice. You can stand your ground and try to face this owlbear, or you can basically just pack up and leave. But in doing, you'll have to leave some of the owlbear parts behind. Like maybe you were trying to get its hide, you'll have to leave that because you don't have quite enough time to get all the stuff that you want. Group's choice, but he's brought this information to you. What do you do?
I say we leave. We've caused enough damage to this ecosystem or whatever, right? Like they were just really hungry. We already know that. So like, are we gonna actually kill it and its partner and then steal its babies?
If I put on its skull, maybe it'll believe that I am its partner, and I can convince it that it's just over.
Yes, a deception. Yes.
I don't think that's going to work.
I'm hunched over, like over the owlbear, and I'm cutting out like a big strip of its hide so that I can do like a mural later on. And I say, nice. I'm like, you're trying to urge us to leave, and I'm just like, but think of the masterpiece I could create with this, and I'm just like tearing.
Yeah, and I just like hop onto Zalzane's shoulder, and I'm just like, put the hide on us. We'll be able to deceive it, no problem.
Artis and Jurek, how do you feel about this plan?
Well, it's coming now. We don't have time to do these things.
I mean, you've got a little bit of time to act, but not like a huge amount of time here.
No, yeah, but that's what I tell them though. Like, we don't have the time to do this. Yeah. So we need to leave right now. I don't like the idea of killing 2 parents and leaving their children behind.
Well, we could just kill the children too. There's no problem with that.
Wait, there's no need to kill. I think Zalzane wasn't committed to this plan before Moon Poison jumped onto his back, but I think I actually want to try and. How hard is Quicksilver to get?
Do you mean like acquiring more of it in the future?
Well, so if we could just pause super quick, just for as far as doing magic in this game, like the only way to produce any sort of real magical effect, unless you have cantrips, is to summon spirits, and for that you need either Quicksilver or you need a magic item with a spirit in it, or an hour. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I would love to do something here, but like, if we have the option of just leaving, I don't know if I want to burn a whole Quicksilver.
Fort Silan, this frontier fort, probably does not have a supply of Quicksilver.
Yeah.
You're also not as likely to find it in the mountains either.
Yeah. Okay. Then maybe I say Moon Poison, for all the extra height we have, I don't know how well we can pass. The skull is a little terrifying.
I'd like to remind you all that
we look perfect.
So this is a great flag opportunity. Let's talk openly about it. Moon Poison has a flag called "Participate in wild and unlikely schemes with me when you're in a pinch."
Oh, amazing.
I
The
also
reward-
have a flag.
The reward for hitting a flag in the session, as long as you hit someone's flag in the session, you get 10% of the total amount of XP you need for the next level. You get that. You get 10% of it. So if you all do go with this ridiculous scheme that Moon Poisoning proposed, you will get a nice little XP bonus. But, it's a ridiculous scheme.
Yeah. We're all animals. If somebody came into Belledosk and murdered your family, I don't think you'd like it either.
And I say, boy, animals have simple minds. They are easily swayed by altering their
Hunger.
perception. I have more tricks than you know.
Who are you calling boy? Jerk's like an old man.
Oh yeah, you're graying, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm an elf.
That doesn't.
I'm probably in my 200s.
You call everybody boy.
And also, you're from Belledosk, so.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. You don't have to explain anything you do. It's a city of mad people. You may not have known that, artists, but yes, it's a city whose residents are all entirely mad.
I say, instead of convincing it that we are its mate, why don't we act as if we are a great forest spirit and scare it off? Quick, I will beat my drum. So. I think
artists. I'm gonna give artists a chance here to pipe up.
Yeah.
What do you think should happen here?
Yeah, I think artists that the second owlbear he saw was like significantly bigger than the first.
I think it was like I think the hunter was probably the mother, and I think this was the male, right? So
right. So yeah, he's just like voicing his concerns of like, if this ruse doesn't work, like. Yeah, it's bad. So I think we should get what we can.
Well, and Jerk is like, this was self-defense. That, and he points to like where it's coming from, would be murder.
Murder, boy. No more talk of murder or killing. This is merely an act, you see, a performance. Now stand back, leave if you must, but we will scare off this beast.
Okay.
All right.
Keep in mind also, I have another flag that is treat me poorly because of my heritage, and I am tiny, so you can just grab me and
That's a good point too, Jurek. You can just like no, you grab me and leave.
Or you could call us mad and flee the scene with your lives intact, because that would also make sense for a heritage.
Yeah, like if you want to do this, you won't have the benefit of Jurik's protection.
Are you insulting her heritage by?
I don't think so.
You can go a little harder there and be like, "Oh, you stupid dumpster gnome."
Yeah.
I think I turn to artists and I say, woodsman, do you not know that if you're confronted by a bear in the woods, it's better to stand your ground and be strong rather than flee in the face of danger? I
would say, like, picking your battles is like how you survive, and like, if we were back in a corner, that'd be one thing, but like we can evade this.
I'm rolling the die of fate right now.
Yeah, this is the one conversation I was about to say.
I feel like the die of fate is happening right now at this moment in time. Here we go.
So, just to set the scene, the two of us are stacked on top of each other. I have the cloak wrapped around both of us, and she's wearing the skull, and it's just protruding out from the hide above us like this.
Yeah, it's a one.
Yes.
While this conversation is happening, something that you may not have known about owlbears is that they are remarkably silent. The earlier owlbear was able to approach your camp, get Moon Poison out of the tree, and drag her halfway down the yard before any of you woke up. this thing has managed to get in place. You're talking, told it precisely where it needed to go, what it needed to do. It has hid itself in tall brush. It's perfectly still. So while you're talking and while you're putting furs on and you're yammering on about like this and that and whatnot, you just hear it's just like a sort of like a roar, but like kind of a shrieking roar, if that makes any sense. Try to imagine what that sounds like. And this thing flies out. It is significantly bigger than the other one. It flies out and it just like slings a claw at you, Yurik. That claw is just like, it's just like, and like just comes down. I'll give you a choice. He destroys your armor or he hits you. Your choice.
My arm?
Your armor.
Oh, my armor. I think that I'll take a hit. Well, I could probably buy new armor, right?
Yeah, he does a d12 plus 1.
Okay. I'll take the hit. Sure.
Okay, roll a d12.
D12.
Hey, Moon Poison, what is your instrument of choice?
A hurdy-gurdy.
Oh, right. But you probably sing too, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it was 11, and then do I count my armor, though?
Yeah, you still get the benefit of your armor. It just doesn't negate it completely. So.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so this thing jumps out. It just like slings a claw and just like buries it deep into your shoulder and chest, right? And I think it's so powerful it actually like spins you, and you like spin and like slam down to the ground. Artist, what do you do?
I am going to immediately try to put a bit of distance between me and the big monster.
You can. I think your scout ability would have maybe like given you just a brief moment of precognition on this. So yeah, you can kind of jump quickly out of the way.
And yeah, can I like shoot an arrow?
Go for it.
And try to give it some damage.
So I think while your heroics are going on, I say, quickly, Moon Poison, raise your voice to the heavens and strike fear into its heart. And I just start beating my drum, doom, 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 doom. And we're trying to scare off the bear while the two of you fight it.
So I'm just gonna like drink one of my quicksilvers and summon the Animelius, the compostifying worm god of worm spirit of chaos and decay.
I love it. Artist, how'd your dexterity roll go?
We go. I got 7, 8.
Hey, awesome. You're gonna get your shot off, no problem. Go ahead and roll your damage, and we'll just leave it there for now. I don't think I need to. I might hold the complication if I see an opportunity later, but for now, just go ahead and roll your damage.
So that's an 8.
Awesome, good hit. Okay, so you were going to summon Animelius, right? You take your shot of Quicksilver. Roll the summon first. Let's see how that goes.
All right. 10 plus 2 is 12.
Oh, very good. Let's look at our options here. Let's see what happens. Okay. A wizard may play with the occult knowledge, summon a spirit. I think it's just plus intelligence, right? It's just a thing that you do. You got a 12. Let's get an extra effect. That's great. What are you going for here? What do you want it to do?
So essentially what I want to happen is I want to sort of create like an aura of like decay. And so like I'm singing this really grimy song, and like I feel like worms start coming out of the ground and swaying, and some of them are like as big as like an arm, and it's just like
It's horrifying.
and the stench from like the stench from the rotting corpse of like what's left of the previous owlbear starts to really kind of become this dark miasma uh, which surrounds Zizi and I, and so like and I'm just like and so like I'm trying to legitimately scare this fucking owlbear away.
That's going to work. For your 12 plus, I'm going to give you the benefit of that working. I think that combined with the fact that it just took a really, really solid arrow hit is going to be enough to ward the owlbear off. This is fucking repulsive. Like it's really disgusting. I think I want all of you minus moon poison. Everyone else, I want you to roll Constitution to see how you're affected by this smell.
Me? Okay.
Including you, yes, Salzane, all of you.
Okay. I'm so into this though. I'm just going, yes.
You can be into it. You can be into it while you projectile vomit. So
I got a 13.
13, cool.
I got a 10.
10. Okay, you're good.
I got a 7.
That's 7. Artis, okay, so Jurek, you don't just power through it. You actually like I don't know. You get a bonus effect. Decide what you want your bonus effect to be. Zalzane, you're cool. It smells disgusting, but you're cool. Artis, you immediately begin puking. You just throw up immediately, like and just puke everywhere. Mechanically, I'm going to give you a -1 forward, so you just have a -1 on your next roll. But yeah, it's because you got a little sickness. I'm going to highlight your stats red so we remember that. Okay, but otherwise the thing like it kind of I think what it does is like basically like you're doing this, you know, you're like in this like weird strange owlbear, you know, mannequin thing you're doing or whatever. You're singing this terrible song. The stench actually becomes visible, it looks like a sort of a rolling London fog, but it's like sort of neon green, and it kind of like rises up, and everyone's just like, oh my god, it's so disgusting. And Artis, you throw up, and the owlbear, Jurek, because you kept it together best, I am going to ask you for what your bonus effect is. But the owlbear, I think you learn that the owlbear feels genuine pain and sorrow at the loss of its mate, made all the worse by this terrible circumstance in which it has to flee. How do you know? How do you know that the owlbear is like how do you know that like you guys have like really sort of
maybe maybe as it's leaving, it's just like doing a sort of shrieking in pain thing that turns into like a lamentation,
like a wail.
Yeah. And there's probably like stories in the tribe passed down too. Like there was like how we knew that the animals are like no worse than human is that like a hunter killed a mate one time, and then, you know, the other mate died just from like sickness, like a penguin or whatever, right? Like heartbreak killed it.
Oh, so you kind of know like instinctively that heartbreak is going to kill this thing.
Yeah. And I think the bonus is that maybe this gross stuff is like hydrogen peroxide-ish, and it like cauterizes the wound a little bit.
I'll take
I don't know.
No, I'll take it. You can I'll let you reroll your hit points if you want. So
sure, that sounds good.
Terrific. let's advance past this scene. I'm going to go ahead and give your XP reward for now.
Oh wait, but before we advance, can I say something?
Oh sure. Oh yeah. Go ahead. Go for it.
I think when that happens, and then, like we see the wound like seal in not a very good way. Like it'll obviously leave a scar or whatever, right? Because it's not natural. He like spits at Moon Poison and is like, "You're the thing that's not natural here." And then he looks at Zanzibar. Is it Zelzada? Zelzada. I'm still learning the names, but he looks at the elf, and he's like, "You may be old, but you're not wise." And he spits again, and then he like goes off.
Indeed.
And like Moon Poison, while Jurek is like spitting at him at her, she's just like at this now kind of rotten corpse, just kind of like eating it because it's just, and she's just like, man, I love what Animalius does with my food.
I come over and like kind of sniff like really curiously, and I say, "I'd like to try some of that."
It's fermented.
Repellent.
Cool.
Okay.
XP reward. Okay, so you'll get XP. This is based off of the value of the various owlbear parts. I assume you'll also like kind of take like some of its fur and things that you can maybe trade at Fort Silan for goods or whatever. And as well as the difficulty of the challenges. Let me just do a quick calculation. This is not easy peasy like Dungeon World. I do some calculating.
Yeah.
Let's see. Plus that. Wait, no. Okay. Everyone except Artis gets 550. Artis, you get 650.
So just out of curiosity, is that from like flags? So you said 10% extra.
You guys haven't gotten anything from that. That's at the end of the session. You haven't gotten.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, yeah, that was just strictly the encounters. So.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, because you two are at level 1, you'll get 100 XP if you hit a flag as well. So, and 100 XP if you tell me the answer to my original question at some point in character. So. If you want a scene to do that, just tell me you want to frame up that scene and we'll do it. Fort Silan. These questions don't have to be in character. I just want to know. Artist, who do you know who lives and works at Fort Silan?
I think shortly after we arrived there, a guard catches my eye.
Hmm.
And he was a soldier or whatever who had been stationed near my home many years ago. And he had given, my father and my family like a really hard time for hunting without permits or some stupid shit that nobody else really cared about. He just had it out for us.
Oh, so this is not a good relationship then.
I don't think this guy a whole lot.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Let's give him a name. Claude. C-L-A-U-D.
Claude.
Cool. Jurek, who do you know who lives or works at Fort Silan?
Uma, U-M-A, is a guide. I think out here it's really hard for them to get by. It's it's hard for them to get supplies, so they have paid one of my people, and I think it's my sister probably, as a guide to teach them how to hunt and to survive out here and to not take more than their fair share and hunt responsibly and stuff like that.
So your sister, Uma, who kind of helps out this fort. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Kind of a Sacagawea thing going on, basically.
Mm.
Awesome. Moon poison. There's a strange race of deep gnomes in this region somewhere. Why do you hate these gnomes?
Gold caps. They were
Say that one more time.
the gold caps.
Okay.
They're called the gold caps. We call them the gold caps because they have these big, pointy, ornately designed caps that they wear, and they participate in the unholiest of all things, capitalism, and they have a very rigid class structure that I absolutely despise, and I cannot stand them. And I'm like, it stays that they are gnomes, and that they are doing these terrible things, and so. And they just use their wealth for wealth's sake rather than using it to uplift their people, and it just absolutely disgusts me.
I love it. Thank you. And finally, Salzane, what rumor have you heard about the burial crypts beneath Fort Silan?
So I have an answer, and I also have an answer for the main question. So maybe we could do like a quick scene where I'm kind of telling the others about both of those things.
Yeah, we can just have it be like on the road. How about that? We'll frame it up. You guys are like you're about a couple miles away from the fort.
Could we maybe frame it up as were we woken by the owlbear?
You were, yeah.
So I'd like this to be like a middle of the night scene, like around either around a fire or like before we go to bed, or like I'd like it to be dark out basically.
Sure.
Because this is kind of like a telling stories around the campfire kind of thing. So your initial question was an ancient spirit that resides in the mountains.
The mountains, yeah. The mountains are a little further west, but yeah.
Okay. And why
do you want to commune with the spirit?
Yes.
Ancient and evil, incidentally. I said ancient and evil. So
okay, evil is already a guarantee. And then the second question was the burial crypts beneath the forts, right? Yeah. And then just to refresh on the information you gave us at the beginning, it's Prince Lamarin, and then there's the pirate whose name was
Jalusa the Merciless, or Jalusa the Merciless. Yeah,
Jalusa. And are pirates like a big thing around here?
Not in this particular area. That's the funny thing about these circumstances. The ocean's nowhere nearby.
Okay, cool. So I think this is after we've escaped the owlbear situation, and we've kind of like recuperated, and maybe we're getting ready to like get a few more hours of shut eye before the morning time, and we're kind of gathered around the camp. And what's the name of this region again? Or this?
It's called the Kingdom of Lomar, and the king is named Lomar as well. So.
And are we just entering Lomar
No, you've been on his lands you've been within his lands this whole time. So yeah, this is actually this is a frontier fort, in fact. So.
And the fort's name is
Silan, Silan.
Silan. Thank you. Okay. So we're sitting around, and I say, now. As we enter these lands, I know the three of you are very capable in combat, heroes, adventurers. You have many skills that will be useful on the road against owlbears and other sorts of threats of the like, but there are other threats, insidious threats that we must be aware of, things that I may be able to protect us from, but I may not. You see, I have heard rumors, legends of a spirit, Yorobi, the Reaper of Dread, who resides in these mountains. Yorobi, they are a harvester of nightmares, you see. And I have heard that in these lands, as of late, the entire population have been plagued with strange dreams. Yorobi feeds on these dreams, collects these dreams, records them. They have an archive, if you will. I'll put together a manifesto made of these ethereal conjurations pulled from the minds of troubled sleepers. Now, the spirit is, I will admit, interesting to me, but also very dangerous. And it is important that in these times, we all take precautions to avoid these nightmares when we can, to keep our sleep as pleasant, as refreshing as possible, because without sleep, we will die. Now, we're approaching Fort Silan. Something else I have heard is that deep beneath the fort itself, in the burial crypts, there lie the bodies of a cabal of sorcerers, 5 powerful mages, warlocks. One of them, Noctara, she was a reverist. She knew more than I about these dreams, these nightmares. She may hold secrets to confronting the spirit, to plaguing, to healing this land of its corruption. And also gold, riches. These were well-to-do sorcerers. So if, it's not only for my own personal gain, there will be something there for all of us, I promise you. And, sorcerers are sorcerers. There could be all sorts of trinkets. I'm sure you'll find something to your liking, but it is something we should investigate. What do you think of this?
I think you talk too much, old man.
But I say things worth hearing, don't I?
I'm not so sure. From time to time, perhaps, and he rips a loud chunk of meat with his teeth.
Still eating. Nice. I say all I ask. Yeah. I say all I ask is that if you start having these dreams, these nightmares, come to me. Consult with me, for it is important that we do not give Yorobi any more information than we need to.
That sounds like a possible flag seed too, right? Something about come to me with your strange dreams or something like that.
Yeah, that is actually a flag that I put up, which is consult me regarding a strange dream that you had.
Okay, I missed that. Okay, awesome, cool.
And then I think another flag that I want to put in is I want Zalzane. I like this narrative of him being like Jurek, you called out to the ranger and you didn't call out to him, right? I like the narrative of him being like the odd one out in the adventuring party of heroes. Like the 3 of you all have combat prowess, and I'm just like this weird old witch doctor who it looks really frail. And we just saw him kind of kick ass, but I like that you guys kind of shun me. Maybe not Moon Poison as much, but she can hit my other flag harder, and I'll maybe think of a third. But I want to think of something like that.
Well, I would, after what just happened, I would definitely be ostracizing you and Moon Poison naturally. So
I'll serve it up the XP then. Well, I'll write it down.
So this little nighttime scene, maybe I think this is probably I'm imagining this is maybe even a day or two after the owlbear encounter, right? During that.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's
this might be a great opportunity for all of you to tell your own little stories, right? About what you're doing here or what's going on. So
yeah. Yeah, that would be a good segue. I think Jurek leans into the fire, and his face is particularly lit with the scar on his eye, and he says, "What I have come for in exchange for helping and finding the natural course of this mystery out is not coin, but to get legislation done essentially for people to hunt responsibly so that people stop encroaching on the area in which his tribe is nomadic and moves from." Because I think I sort of touched on that years ago, and now he's an old man. So I think everyone's the towns have grown bigger, and people are, hunting more, and it's just like becoming an unsustainable lifestyle for his tribe. So the price instead of coin was to get people to basically have it so it's like a responsible hunting permit and to stop being assholes to nature and stuff, basically.
So basically, you're going to extract from the king like some really serious like environmental regulations.
Yeah, it sounds kind of lame that way, but yeah. Basically, for him, it's like.
Trust me, if there's something rich people hate, it's we have to protect the environment. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's just seeing his way of life slowly like eroding and becoming unsustainable. Like maybe last season they moved with the caribou, and the caribou were like all but slaughtered and that kind of stuff.
I have a question for Artis. Artis, while Jurek is telling this story, actually all three of you, because I want to get a little bit scene out of this. While Jurek is telling this story, what do you see in either his body language or his tone of voice or anything else? What do you see that lets you know that like this issue is like particularly emotional for Jurek? Like it's a really intense emotional thing for him. How do you see it? And I'd just be curious, like, because it's the sort of thing that Jurek would have no control over, right? Like it's a response as he talks about it.
Right. I think
Small
like
things.
Jurek, as far as I've seen him, has been like, pretty solid, like not a whole lot of expression or like, very solid. And as he's telling this, I've noticed some jerking or like some, body movements that like, show that he's not like, it gets to him or whatever.
He gets a little shuddered or whatever, right? Yeah.
I think I think it's like his tone of voice, kind of, because Zalzane is really in tune with like he is kind of a singer, as weird as he is, right, and like a drummer and stuff. Like he's really in tune with that sort of like internal like passionate expression, sort of. And I think as he's telling this story, it almost feels like a song or like a ballad to him or something. Like he's getting a really like storytelling vibe. And I think he kind of listens enraptured, and I think he's actually sympathetic, as as annoying as he can be. I think he really respects the idea of protecting where you came from and what's important to you and stuff like that. So I listen.
As a political person, I can kind of tell when these things are happening, and I feel I feel the passion, and I feel and I start to sort of like perk up, and I'm just like raising my glass or whatever, and just like I'm doing like twinkles or whatever, and snapping along to what Jurek is saying, and I'm just like I'm getting into it, and I'm just like, and then afterwards I'm just like, Jurek, you're right. We need to do this. This is what's important. And I just pull him aside, and I'm just like, I understand. We are part of the same struggle. The struggle for this and that. And so like, I kind of go on my own sort of like tirade, but my tirade is really linked to his own, and I'm just like, this is all part of the same struggle against the aristocracy, and we just need to destroy them.
Indeed.
I've thought about
making
killing
it even more poignant.
Yeah.
Any more storytelling about either? Let's see. We saw our open question about Jalus the Merciless's ship and Artis's connection to one of the missing knights as well. If you guys want to throw that out there, or we can hold it for a minute. Doesn't matter. We'll have time in the fort as well.
Right.
Well, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I feel like my story is more like something that like is a private discussion between myself and Zelzane.
Okay.
And so like we're sort of chatting, and like well, it's more like we're doing like, because Zelzane is familiar with the Blood Lily situationist syndicate, and so we're kind of just like dancing and whistling and doing like guttural throat singing back and forth, and I'm indicating that there is the potential that like knowing that something was able to move a boat from the ocean to the mountains, that something may still be in the mountains. And if we can get it on our side, it could be an incredible tool against the power of the Hex King. And like, but it's, but, I keep having this dreadful dream of, the Hex King, and like I see the glowing green fire of the Hex King like consuming a boat in the mountains, and that's my nightmare. And I don't know whether to turn back or to keep going. And so that's my sort of revelation.
My dear, while it may be a troubling sign, I think that what your dream is telling you is to head into the fire. That something is waiting for you there. That whatever this power is, you can seize it and burn the aristocracy to the ground. That's what it is.
I love it. So it sounds like the answer is you don't necessarily want to find the boat. You want to confirm that the boat is there and then find whatever brought the boat to the mountains. Is that the idea?
Something like that, yeah.
And then and then wrangle it to serve your ends.
Exactly.
Sounds great. Cool. Good. Artists, you got anything, or do you want to hold yours for the fort?
Yeah, I can go. So tied to a knight who went missing. So around the same time in Artis's life when Claude was around, there was another knight or military person who he had a real connection with, who really helped him, and like they had a bond, and they had some sort of contact for a long time. And after like the events that wiped out Artis's family, he just kind of clued in that he hadn't heard from him in a really long time. So that's kind of what put him to the road. He didn't really have any other ties to anyone, and felt kind of lost. So that was like his beacon that he.
So this might be like your only family, basically. Is that the idea?
Yeah, like not physical family, but like closest thing to a family that he has.
So it's a knight. Sounds like it's a man. Do you have a name?
I don't, but
I can come up with one if you want me to.
Yeah, sure.
Your name is Artis, so let's say Clovis.
Sorry, what was the original question for Kyle?
You have a close personal connection to one of the missing knights.
Okay.
Tell me about him or her. That's it.
So it was like your last remaining family kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like family, right? Yeah.
And Clovis, you said?
Yeah, give me just 1 second. Sorry, hold on, guys.
Sorry, Kyle. I just I didn't actually know what your question was, so I wasn't totally getting like the whole thing. So you said one of the knights was like family to you, and then you lost them.
Yeah, they had been like stationed near my village, and kind of took it on like a mentor sort of thing, like a person Artis looked up to when he was young, kind of deal.
Awesome, cool.
What was
I have a question, if that's okay. Is there one like specific thing that he taught you that is like one of your like trademark skills in the wild or something, like just to add character to him? Like, what was he a master of?
Well, I mean, Artis's thing is his bow. So yeah, I think that was probably it. Like archery and that whole thing. Set him to like practicing with targets for days on end, kind of deal.
There's like a flashback, and you're like, "What are you trying to tell me? When you're done with this, I'll be able to bend arrows." And he's like, "No, when you're done with this, you won't have to."
Exactly.
Exactly. Awesome. Let's take a 5-minute break and come back. We'll come back to quarter till.
Go.
Fantastic. I did give you guys this option, but I want to ask, we can kind of retcon. Would you have gone back to get the 2 owlbear eggs? Or would you just feel done with that situation? The adolescent owlbear would pose no problem so long as you all agreed to go, like, corner it and dispatch it or whatever. But I don't know, Jurek, you were kind of like feeling the sadness, so.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that like it wasn't that far away from the camp or whatever, and I would like, I don't know, go to like make sure it was cool or something sometimes.
Oh, you get check on the adolescent owlbear.
Yeah.
What about the eggs?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I guess they would definitely, like, I don't know how owlbears work, but I'm assuming without the mother they would just die or something, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just want to know if you guys collect them or not. So.
I mean, did both the parents die?
Yeah. Or no, the one just ran away, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I guess he might have gone back. I don't know if he would have gone straight back or not. Let's assume he did. And yeah.
I don't think Jurek would have the stomach to go back and dispatch.
Yeah, I think if you had acted quickly, you could have gotten the eggs. But otherwise, I think if you didn't like immediately go do that, I think you probably wouldn't be able to beat the father back. So yeah.
I think we did, and I also think we did enough antagonizing of Jurek in the first place of like, fighting that thing, and we knew not to push it any further than that because he is
yeah, he has like more hit points than all of you combined. So
yeah, he's a level 5 fighter, man. I'm not fucking around with that.
Okay, I just want to confirm it. All right. Fort Silan. Fort Silan is a Fort Silan sits kind of like in the middle of a wide flat area, like a plains, right? There's some foothills a little further to the west, and then a little further to the west from that are these mountains. These mountains, basically very near Fort Silan, there's like a pass that like kind of begins near Fort Silan. It's strategically located, right? And that pass like cuts through the mountains, and that pass is where this knight that survived with all these burn wounds for a little bit. This is where they are supposed to have like come out of and come to the fort, according to the story. Worth pointing out, the story is a little funny. You've heard different versions of the story, but what it all seems to kind of come down to is what you've all settled on, what people have settled on, is the soldier managed to drag himself injured with these terrible burn wounds to Fort Silan, but then died. And he was muttering something about a fire. Now, if you think about like how rumors work and how stories work, did he say the fire? Maybe people just added that in because he had a bunch of burn marks on his body. Did he arrive? Did he drag himself through the mountains to Fort Silan, or did someone bring him? Some even wonder if he was even alive when he actually got to Fort Silan and they found his body. It's all a little unclear. The only thing that's true for sure is he was clutching this silver pendant, which is evidence that Prince Lomarin, it belongs to Prince Lomarin, and the only way it would be there is if Jalassa the Merciless's ship was somehow intercepted at some point, maybe, and it's been 15 years, so who knows? I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why that necklace might have ended up there, I suppose. But the king has hope that there's evidence of his son being there. So, in any case, my point is the story is a little fuzzy. And Fort Silan sits in the middle of this wide, flat plains area that kind of is at the foot of these mountains. It is a single-story fort with a high wall, partially stone, partially wood. It actually hasn't seen a ton of action, so it's like in still pretty good shape, right? But before you even get like within, you get within like an eighth of a mile of it, and you will be like, guards on soldiers on horses or whatever will come and escort you in. You just to fully paint the scene here, you all can have like animals that you're riding as well, right? Like probably some kind of mules or something, right? But yeah, you are being taken through this sort of like main gate. They raise up this like, portcullis, and you're kind of brought in. The soldiers are kind of taking you in. As you enter through the portcullis and into the sort of like courtyard area of the fort, I'd like to know from each of you what you see that is evidence that Fort Silan has not seen a lot of action. Either something in the structure of it, something about the people, just anything. Some evidence that like Fort Silan has not really known the horror of war.
I think like a whole bunch of the soldiers aren't even like armed. They're just like on the parapets, but they're just looking and chatting and
just hanging around.
Yeah. If something were to happen, they don't even have arms.
Nice. Sounds good.
The gate is clearly broken, and hasn't been fixed, and clearly has been broken for some time. Like it's just like the portcullis is kind of wonky and could be just like really easily taken apart by anything. Yeah.
Nice, good.
There are children playing like outside of the walls. Like they don't have an obvious like safety procedure, it seems like, and it seems like they don't have a lot of like regulations or a very strict routine or regiment about how they organize everything. Like there's people, milling around, and also like they look happy, and they look a little plump, right? And they look well fed, and it just, maybe they don't have a ton of food, but they don't look like they've they've been through it. And maybe they're a little far out to be having these dreams too, so it hasn't really gotten to them yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, the dreams are an interesting question, and I think I might actually push a little bit there. What do you see, Zalzane, that lets you know that perhaps these people are afflicted by these dreams of this spirit Yorubi? Maybe something that you would be aware of, that you would see.
Okay. Kyle, do you have anything for the camp? And I'll think of that other one for a second.
Yeah, I think like a lot of the typical like guard posts where people would be, having a lookout and like prepared for stuff. A lot of them are unoccupied, and no one seems to think twice about it. It's just like things are very relaxed.
Nice, good.
So I think that these dreams, these nightmares, these night terrors are not just dreams. They're sort of an affliction as well, which is partially why I'm interested in it. It's almost like a bit of a curse vibe. And what I've heard is that this spirit Yorubi not only produces these dreams within these people, but also sort of feeds on those dreams, right? So it's taking something from them. So some folks in town, maybe not everyone's afflicted in this way, but many have bags under their eyes, and their faces are actually very gaunt. So and maybe a bit of a yellow pallor. So it looks like they've actually had something sapped from them. But also like they're not sleeping, right? So, it's almost like it's a type. It looks like a type of sickness as well as night terrors, sort of. And the ones that have, I think, are maybe I catch a few of them are walking around with sort of like blank stares, like they're occupied by these dreams. I catch people in reverie, like waking nightmare, not nightmares, but like they're experiencing this stuff as they walk around or remembering it.
I love it. And so it sounds like possibly this sort of this idleness that Artis has seen, and this um, sort of like just negligence that Jurek saw on the wall might actually be these people just being kind of like out of it, right? Like maybe they're not focused, they're not here galvanized and ready to take the crown, right? Like they are out of it. And so yeah, I think I'm going to play with that for a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and roll the die of fate for this sort of arrival scene.
Nice.
It's a 5. Good hit.
This die of fate is so cool.
I love the die of fate. This man comes out. He looks like he's in charge, and as described, some of the people that you described just momentarily, Salzane, he is. I think he's not gaunt, because I think he's a little overweight, but he definitely has like a very sort of a waxy, sallow complexion, right? And he comes out to the courtyard to meet you, and he's got like a big, heavy cloth, and he's constantly like wiping his forehead, right? Like he's just like constantly wiping it, like he's nervous, or he's like beset by something, right? And he says, he sees you all on your horses and mules, and he says, I suspected that once the king put out word of a bounty for information, that we would start to get investigators coming through. Yes. I'm Captain Uriah, and he comes to shake your hand, Jurek, because you look like you're in charge, because you're older.
Sure. I shake his hand.
He says, "Sir, I hope you don't take this the wrong way. I certainly don't mean it the wrong way, but you look like you belong to one of the nomadic tribes that we occasionally encounter on our patrols. Your manner of dress would indicate as much."
I think his body like sort of stiffens and his grip gets tighter, and he says, "That is exactly right, sir."
He says, Yes, and he seems like very winded and tired, and he actually, in fact, like grabs like a milking stool, kind of like sets it down and like plops down a little bit, and says, "Well, you're all welcome to find somewhere to stay as long as you need. I am fully at your service. If you're here to figure out where the night patrol went, I'll tell you everything I know."
Well then,
he's like, "Well, you've only just arrived. We have a little makeshift pub, but we've got a brisk trade and going on here. There's a little market. Rest, get to know people. Become part of the community. That's what I say."
Sir, you seem to be a bit strained, a bit preoccupied. Is everything all right here? So some of these people.
He now acts like he's seeing you for the first time, Zalzane, and he looks at you and he says, No, Sir Elf. I'm fine." And he kind of like, there's almost like a look of familiarity on his face, like he's seen you, but that can't be right. He says, Please. We have plenty of space in the soldiers' barracks. You're free to put your things down. I think he's just now noticed you, Moon Poison, as well, because you're kind of small. He probably just thought that you were a child or something. He walks up to you and says, "My goodness," he says, Are you a gold cap? Surely not."
You disgusting! How could you even consider?
He's like, I meant no offense. It's just that you're quite small.
Those vile creatures are nothing. They're nothing. They have no They're just vile. They're vile creatures. No, I have nothing in common with them. We may both be gnomes, but I spit on their use of that term.
He says, well, I meant no offense, and I completely take you at your word that gold caps may be vile. But, well, it was a group of gold caps that dragged Sir Hubert's body to the fort, burned and dead as he was.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure they took all your money for doing so, huh?
No, in fact, they just dropped him off and said he was taken by the fire, and then they left.
Oh, yeah, well, they don't have any. You can't trust them. There's all they're trying to do is they're trying to, you know what? They just want to sell you the fire, and you know what? I don't think you need it. Honestly, you don't.
What is this fire?
And Captain Uriah says, I don't know. I suppose that's what you're all here to find out, huh?
Indeed.
The fire. It beckons us like a beacon. Gold caps are not known to do favors without repayment. Your story has holes. We will be investigating it. For now, we will appreciate your hospitality. And I look over to Jurek and I say, don't you have a sister here? Should we meet with her?
I say, Uma. Where is Uma?
He says, ah, that's why you look so familiar. You dress as she does. Are you related to her?
I think he gives a pointed look at Zelzane and he's like, indeed, she is my sister. Don't fucking tell people that.
She is currently out. She's currently out with a group of men. They are exploring. They're exploring a series of tunnels that we located on one of our trails. I suspect they'll be back by nightfall.
Tunnels. Anything interesting? Gnome burrows?
Who knows? Ancient smugglers' tunnels, gold cap tunnels. Who knows? It could be anything. It may be nothing. We find such things all the time. Come. Let's find you accommodations. And he says to you, Artis, he says, you, and he kind of actually pulls you aside a little bit, right? Like away from the rest of the group. He says, friend, I certainly wouldn't want to cast aspersions on your judge of character, but you and I, we're very alike, if you know what I mean. By very alike, your companions are distinct in their manner, and well, I just wonder how you got sorted with them. How did that happen?
Right. I would I don't know, nudge him and say something like, they've served me for a purpose, and they kept me safe on the road, and
right in front of you see me pluck an insect out of Moon Poison's hair and just eat it.
Nice. And he just says, yeah, I always knew men like you, wilderness men, ranger men. I known you to be a strange lot. Don't take that the wrong way, because I don't mean it the wrong way. But you should watch this group. They're odd ducks. And he will take you to there's like a barracks that has just rows of beds, and I think there's one partitioned area where guests and maybe nursing mothers or something can go and get privacy or stay. And so there are several cots. You can lay your things down. I'm just going to go around the table. We have time for maybe 2 or 3 more scenes. I'm going to go around the table and just find out what I'm going to poll the table, find out what you're each doing here in your first day. It's late in the afternoon. Your first day functionally at Fort Silan. What would you be doing? What sort of activities? Who would you be seeking out? That kind of thing. Drake.
I'd probably find Uma if I could, and if not, then I'd probably be probably going about like the wilds around the place to see if there's any sort of similar signs of corruption and stuff like that, just like in the last series where there was that theme of like corruption in the wilderness and stuff. So I think you'd be looking for signs of that.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. Moon Poison, what about you?
I'd probably be looking for any sort of any place that would have books of any sort, whether that be a chapel, a library, a bookstore, or whatnot. I'm just kind of
there's probably a small chapel that might have like a very, very, maybe like a book, just a small bookcase of hymnals and maybe some other things.
Right. And trying to like, I think mostly what I'm looking for is trying to figure out if there's any information that I can find about the mountains.
I'm into that. We'll talk about that in a minute. And Artis, what about you?
Artis is probably talking to anyone he can find about the knights, seeing if all of the stories line up, if like everyone is giving the same series of events.
Yeah.
And aside from that, trying to like observe like landscape, wildlife, that kind of thing, like trying to familiarize himself with where he is in the world.
Perfect.
Do you meet up with Claude?
No, they don't like each other.
Oh, right.
No,
right.
I see Claude and I stay as far away from him.
I've got Claude in my back
Claude
pocket if I need it. Yeah, Claude's ready for a hard move. So, Zalzane, what about you?
So I think, maybe for a little bit I tag along with Moon Poison because I definitely want to, check out the collection, but maybe I like leave her to dive into it and maybe report back to me later with what she finds out. I think what I would like to do is, do you have like descriptions of the skills? Like what is Decipher actually like intended for? Is it like...
So lore, and the big distinctions between lore and Decipher, which is what most people have a tricky time like just figure out. Decipher is like when you are straight up reading a thing right now that is maybe like in a different language or written in some kind of arcane tongue, that kind of thing. Lore is more of like a general like knowledge, like things I know, right?
Okay. I think I want to go to kind of like the local healer and talk to them about any reports of, people reporting strange visions, prophetic dreams, even because I've heard that some of these have been known to come true, like these horrible dreams. And then kind of tracking those people down and maybe having like one-on-one sessions with them where it's like, really weird therapy where I kind of like dive into their brain and try and decipher their dreams.
I like it. So let's start with Artis. Artis, it sounds like you were like kind of chatting people up initially to find out what you can find out. Give me a charisma roll.
Not my strongest suit.
That's okay.
But not bad.
9. I'll let you ask any single question you want about anything really, and I'll answer it as honestly as I can, as fully as I can. But think about it. I'll come back to you. Okay. Moon Poison. There's a small chapel, and I think that there is like a sort of like lay worker. They don't have like an actual full-time priest or anything like that. but I think there's like a lay worker. I think it's a young man. He's probably like in his he's probably like maybe 21 or 22. Very like very very clean cut, wearing like a very like simple kind of like gray kind of vestment, and he smells surprisingly sweet, like we would say he smells like sort of like the innocence of youth, right? The innocence of someone who just takes care of books and prays. What does he actually smell like to you, though? Like, what physical thing does he smell like to Moon Poison that conveys this idea?
Probably smells like to Moon Poison's nose, like pine needles.
Okay.
And fresh caught fish, with a little with like a sort of almost a I guess chocolatey sort of under pining. Yeah.
Nice.
Undertaste. Yeah.
He I think his name is we'll name him.
That's a rich bouquet.
We'll name him Calvin. And he sees you come into the small chapel, and he's there. I think he's like sweeping, and he says, "Oh my, and he kind of like he almost seems like a little embarrassed, like he's looking at you because you're like so strange looking, but then he like looks away because he feels like that's rude, And he's like talking to you with like his eyes like up, like at the ceiling, right? Like not making like very conspicuous, making very like conspicuous non-eye contact with you right now. And he says, "Oh, I'm excuse me, I heard that you must be one of those new arrivals, one of those people who just got at the fort. Is there anything I can do to help you?"
And is there like a sort of a surface that's higher up near him that I can like climb up to? And I'm like,
yeah, maybe he's next to like a little altar space or whatever.
Okay, so I just kind of climb up, and I'm like, I understand you might be able to see me better up here. So I see you looking up. I am a traveling minstrel, and I've been studying mountains for probably 20 years. So I'm just curious if you know anything about these mountains, any of the legends or any strange happenings that might have happened, and if you could, you're obviously probably one of the most learned individuals in this town, and so I just want to talk to you to see if you know anything, because from learned individual to another, we've got to stick together, because these other folks, they don't understand what our brains are like, and so I just could you point me in a direction?
He's like, possibly. I'm gonna roll die fate real quick. Let me clear these real fast. 5. Good result. He says, yes, I've heard stories. I've heard stories about the mountains. I've heard things from the patrols, and I may be of some help. And then he kind of like gets a little like, he says, well, I better close the doors. And he goes to like close the like little doors to the chapel, as if he wants to say something that like he doesn't want anybody else to hear. Well, that thought will come back. Jurek. Uma will be back tonight. So in the meantime, what would you do again?
I think he'd be just making sure that things in the wild are not perturbed here. And I think he does that simply like by being present. When he was younger, he'd be like going through trails and stuff like this, and in his old age now, I think he could just be rooted in nature and be present and see if anything is
Roll plus
out of
wisdom.
whack. Wisdom is +1. Orange dice coming. 6, 7.
You sense something, a force, a presence that is incredibly powerful. And this is not some widespread sort of miasma or permeation in the air, right? This is incredibly localized, as in right here in the fort. There's something immensely powerful, a stone's throw away.
Or a stone's drop.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it unnerves you, I think.
Yeah, I think what it looks like in the fiction is that, it's like a montage with all the nature and stuff, but instead of it being like a normal movie where it's like, ooh, it's too quiet, I think it's too loud. Like all the things within here are like talking about it, and it's just too active. Like all of nature has been trying to tell all the rest of nature and even the people here that like something's up, and nobody's been listening.
Nice. And Zalzane, remind me what you're doing.
Yeah, so I think what I kind of like to set up, or what I think would be interesting here, is that a lot of the dreams that some of these people have been having, most of the nightmares are like of horrible things happening either to the fort, or just things like catastrophes that might happen that they see, and maybe only like 1 or 2 of them have come true, but people are seeing things that could come to pass. And I think that's the effect that kind of the spirit has on this area, is it producing these dreams that are almost like foretellings of horrible things to come, and people don't know whether or not they're going to come to pass. So I think maybe I'd like to track some people down who have had some of these visions of maybe some things to come that we might encounter, to try and gather information about either the spirit, about how this curse works, or about maybe details about the mystery itself.
And how are you doing so? Are you just like watching people, or are you talking to people, or what?
No, I'd like to go to kind of the medica or the healer or whatever, and track down some of the sick folks and kind of do a one-on-one session. I don't know how I could convince them to come into my tent and, get involved in my rituals, like bust out my drum and everything. But yeah,
I'm into it. We'll name the healer. We'll say it's an older woman. Her name is going to be, It's not correct now. She is a we're talking like, basic poultices and herbs, type healer, right? Like no like exceptional training or anything, right? But I think you can very easily find out where she does her work. I think she has just basically a little nook along, along the sort of like maybe like in one wing of the fort, and it's just a little nook. I think that she actually has someone in there with her right now. As you step inside her little space, which again is just to be perfectly clear about how small this space is. Like you step into the door frame, and like the walls are like here and here, right? Like they're not that much wider than the door frame, right? And there are just very narrow shelves, like stacked high, like, and so close again that you can kind of like, like turn and like, see right in front of you, like little jars of clay and herbs and bundles of various plant life and things, like all kind of dangling and hanging. And the space goes in a little bit and it kind of opens up a little bit toward the end, but there's a um, but you see this older woman, and she is there with a man who she has given some kind of like vapor that's causing them to they look like they're kind of like going in and out of sleep, right? Or they're kind of like in a sort of semi-lucid state, right? And he's muttering things. He's muttering things like, oh, mother, I can see it. I can see it. It's there. It's so cold. It's reaching out for me. Yes, it's reaching out for me. But should I touch it? I don't know. And then he kind of grabs her, right? Like he's cognizant enough to know that she's there, and he grabs her. And he kind of whispers to her, he says, tell me what I should do. Should I reach out? Should I grab it? And this older woman, I think, then turns and sees you, right?
Yeah.
And she says, can I help you?
I say, please, you seem to be a woman of talent. I can tell by your home that you have great knowledge of alchemy and herbs, but
she says,
this
no
is
flattery,
something.
Please, what do you want?
I say, I'm a spirits doctor from the great city of Belit-Osk. This man is under an affliction. His dreams have been tainted by a great spirit. I need to commune with him.
And then he says,
it will.
He says, yes, I'm tainted. I see it now, this taint approaching me.
I will remove this.
Reaching out to grab me. Oh my God, it wants to. And he like seizes her, right? He says, don't let it touch me, mother. Don't let it touch me. And he kind of presses his face into her chest. And she's
kind woman, please, let me have a moment with the man.
I'm going to cut away. Artists. Actually, I'm going to roll Die of Fate first on that last scene, and then I'm going to cut away.
Okay. I think I have an interesting way to work in my special ability if we come back. Okay.
We'll see how that goes. We'll come back. Artists, what's your question? What do you find out as you're kind of talking to people?
So I guess Artist has his big draw here is Clovis. So he's questioning anyone who might have been around the survivor, might have heard what he was saying. Trying to fish out if there's any chance that somebody had survived, or like what they were doing, or something along those lines.
He says, you meet an older guy, an old kind of grizzled, as Fraser might say, grizzled AF guy there at the bar, and you're chatting him up. He's had a little bit to drink, right? And this is like a really small kind of like little, like makeshift pub, right? It's just like a tall table and a couple of long tables and what used to be probably like used to be a stable that's no longer used or something, right? So it's kind of open air. And he says, yeah. I knew them knights. Clovis, knew him. The other knights, they didn't want to go. They didn't want to go up that old trail through the mountains. They said, not their business. Said it was Fort Silan's business, not the King's Knights. Why go up in the mountains? Nothing there for chivalric men. That's what they said. Nothing there that requires that sort of training skill. But it was Clovis. It was Clovis that insisted they go into the mountains. He put his foot down, he did. I saw it. They all had a bad feeling. Yeah. But Clovis convinced them to go. And I'll tell you what else. I saw a glimmer of darkness in his eye as he did so. I think something fishy was going on there. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
So now the question becomes like, how do I want to end this scene? I've got a 1 with, or in this session. I feel kind of good where we're at. We've got Kelvin about to say something really like important to Moon Poison. We've got a guy who is having a dream fugue. That situation looks like it's going to be pretty hot based off the die of fate. And we've got a very localized, powerful force in the fort. I will tell you this, Jurek. Let's say you are doing a little bit of following the beacon, right? Where is specifically this localized, powerful force? Captain Uriah? No, nowhere near him. The crypts? No. Nothing, in fact. Just you're there at the entrance and it's cold. You go by. You probably even see Zalzane and the guy freaking out. Nothing.
You hear it probably.
You probably hear it. But then you go to the closed chapel door and your heart drops out of your chest because whoever is behind that chapel door is immensely powerful and it's got a game to play. And that's where we'll end up.
Oh,
Cool.
shit!
Nice. Nice.
So let's do our end of session XP. I think everybody it felt like everybody was hitting flags and everybody did their story. So does anybody think that they did not hit a flag or wants to, like, I don't know. There were some good scenes, if nothing else, as far as like character interactions. So I feel like we got our money's worth on that. Yeah. I guess well, let me take a look. We don't even have, well, Artist doesn't even have his flag written down yet. Artist, at some point before next session, just get a couple things down. I know that Zalzane, you were definitely hitting Moon Poison's like participate in my wild and likely skiing, even though it didn't quite go the way you guys thought it would, although it kind of did.
It went exactly as we thought it would.
So you got that one. Moon Poison, whose did you hit?
I did hit Zalzane's. I had talked to him about dreams.
Right.
About the burning boat and
yeah,
the fire.
Jurek, whose did you hit?
I tried to look down on Moon Poison by like spitting at them.
That's right. You spit at them. That's right. So
also, I think you're the genesis of my second flag that I'm going to add, which is kind of like make me feel like the odd one out, as an adventurer, sort of. So
you're welcome.
Yeah.
Artist, do you believe you hit a flag? It can be, it doesn't have to be like precise to the language of the flag. Just something in the spirit of it is fine.
I mean, when the guard was being a racist jerk, I didn't like stick up for my friend, so I kind of her flag about.
Yeah, you participated in his racist bullshit. That's right, you did.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's the worst kind of thing to do. Okay, I love it. Okay, so you will each get 10% of whatever your next total requirement is. So those of you who just started, you get 100 XP. Moon Poison, you get 1,000, and you get 1,500, Jurek. And then let's see, and then everyone did their little story, so you get the exact another amount that equal to that. So note that down. And then
the amount equal to what?
Oh, you get the same amount for hitting your story too. So
so double it.
Yeah, it's just double it. And then the wrap up XP is going to be 375 each. So there you go.
Yay!
Nice. So close.
Cool. We're past time, so I'm gonna go ahead and go. But that was great fun. I had a good time.
Yeah.
It was lovely. I can't do Discord chat tonight, but maybe we'll try it next week. But I feel like we got the characters are on the table, are on the board. We got a bunch of shit happening already, which is awesome, which I love. And I will be kind of refining some of these ideas between now and next week. That's what I do. You guys, if you guys want to refine some of your ideas about your characters, even retconning some things to kind of get to the better place where you want your character to be, I'm totally cool with that. It's still early enough to do that kind of thing. So, but yeah, fantastic job, everyone. I don't have anything else.
I'd like to throw in that I'd like to, as best I can, get a handle on all of your answers to those questions, so I can incorporate them as much as we can. So maybe just like throw it up on the chat or something, like kind of just give a quick point form note of like the gold cap stuff, and maybe
yeah, I took notes on all of it. I can just like paste those into a chat window or something. So
that'd be great.
Just remind me though. All right, cool. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Okay.
All right. Thank you.